The voicemail from my sister still haunts me, even now. Mom said, "You're not even family anymore." 6 years later, I can recite every cold, calculated word. I remember exactly where I was standing, in the parking lot of my apartment complex, holding an eviction notice in one hand and my sleeping 6-month-old daughter in the other. My name is Skylar, and this is the story of how I bought my parents' house just to kick them out of it. That day started like any other rock-bottom Thursday. Hannah was teething. I was 3 months behind on rent, and my ex had conveniently changed his number again. The landlord's sympathy had finally run dry, leaving me with 72 hours to vacate. I did what any desperate daughter would do. I swallowed my pride and drove to my parents' house, the sprawling 5-bedroom colonial where I grew up. The same house where my mother hosted her weekly wine clubs, and my father practiced his golf swing in the manicured backyard. "Mom?" I called, knocking on the front door. Hannah stirred against my shoulder, and I bounced her gently. "Mom, please, I know you're home." The curtain twitched. I saw her face, perfectly made up as always, peer out before disappearing. 10 seconds later, the door opened just enough to reveal her slim figure blocking the entrance. "Skylar." Her voice carried that familiar note of disappointment. "This isn't a good time." "I wouldn't be here if it wasn't important." I shifted Hannah to my other hip. "We got evicted. I just need a place to stay for a few weeks while I—" "No." The word cut like glass. "What?" "I said no. We don't have room." I laughed, the sound hollow. "Mom, you have 5 bedrooms. The guest room hasn't been used since Christmas." "That's not the point." She glanced over her shoulder, lowering her voice. "What would people think? The neighbors already talk enough about your situation." Hannah chose that moment to wake up, her big brown eyes blinking at the grandmother who'd seen her exactly twice since birth. "She's your granddaughter," I whispered. "We're your family." "Family?" She raised one perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Family doesn't embarrass each other like this. Family maintains standards. Your sister would never—" "Kylie's married to a dentist," I snapped. "Sorry I couldn't meet your social calendar's requirements when choosing my life crisis." "Don't be dramatic." She started closing the door. "Call your father's sister, or that friend of yours, the waitress." "Ingrid? Mom, she lives in a studio apartment? Then that's your solution to figure out." "I have book club in an hour, and I need to prepare the hors d'oeuvres." The door clicked shut. I stood there, staring at the brass knocker, while Hannah began to fuss. Through the window, I could see my mother adjusting a vase of fresh flowers on the entry table. My phone buzzed. A text from Kylie. "Mom told me what happened. Maybe if you'd listened to her about Ramon in the first place." I walked back to my car, strapped Hannah into her car seat, and sat behind the wheel. The tears wouldn't come. Instead, something else was building, something hard and cold and certain. That night, I parked outside the house and watched the book club ladies arrive in their luxury SUVs. Their laughter drifted through the open windows, along with the clink of wine glasses and my mother's practiced socialite giggle. Hannah slept peacefully in her car seat. I opened Facebook on my phone and saw my mother had posted new family photos from last weekend's garden party. In the original versions, I'd been standing at the edge of the frame. Now the images were cropped, cutting me out entirely. My phone buzzed again. That final voicemail from Kylie. "Mom said you're not even family anymore. Stop embarrassing everyone and figure your life out. Some of us actually care about this family's reputation." I looked at my daughter, then at the house where I grew up. The house where I'd never been good enough, where every achievement came with criticism, where love was conditional on meeting impossible standards. "Hey, baby girl," I whispered to Hannah. "Want to hear a story? Once upon a time, your mama made a big mistake. She thought family meant something it didn't. But don't worry, we're going to write our own ending to this fairy tale." I started the car and drove away from the house, from the laughter, from the family that wasn't family anymore. I had 72 hours to find a place to live, no money, and a baby who deserved better than a car seat for a bed. But I also had something else now, a purpose, a plan starting to form. Because one day I promised myself I would stand in front of that house again. And next time, I'd be holding something very different from an eviction notice. I just didn't know yet that it would be the deed to their house. Living in your car with a baby teaches you things they don't cover in parenting books, like how to change diapers in a reclined driver's seat, or which parking lots have the most lenient security guards. For me, it was the Walmart 3 blocks from my parents' house. "You can stay with me," Ingrid had offered immediately when I called. "It'll be tight, but your landlord would evict you too," I said. "I can't do that to you." But she wouldn't take no for an answer. Every night she'd text, "My couch is still free." After a week of Hannah crying in the back seat and me washing up in gas station bathrooms, I finally gave in. Ingrid's studio apartment became our sanctuary. She worked day shifts at the diner. I took nights at the 24-hour pharmacy. Hannah bounced between us like a tiny ping-pong ball, but at least she had a real crib, a hand-me-down from Ingrid's cousin. "Look what I found," Ingrid said one evening, tossing me her phone. My mother's Facebook page showed photos from another wine night. "They're really acting like you don't exist, huh?" I handed the phone back without looking. I have better things to focus on. And I did. Between customers at the pharmacy, I'd pull up online classes on my phone. Business administration, real estate fundamentals, financial planning. The screen's blue light kept me awake through the graveyard shift, along with gas station coffee and pure determination. "You should sleep when Hannah sleeps," Ingrid worried. "I'll sleep when I'm dead. Or rich. Whichever comes first." Then came the paycheck that changed everything. My manager had messed up the overtime calculations, paying me for extra hours I hadn't actually worked. I stared at the number, $850 more than usual. "They'll probably catch it," I told Ingrid, holding the check like it might disappear. But what if they don't? They never did. That mistake became my first savings account. Every spare dollar went into it, along with the tips I made helping elderly customers find their medications at 3 a.m. One night, while counting my savings in the pharmacy break room, my coworker Curtis stopped by. He was older, worked construction during the day and pharmacy nights to fund his real estate side hustle. "You're always studying," he noted, peering at my phone screen. "Real estate licensing?" "Just dreaming," I said. "Dreams need plans." He pulled up a chair. "Let me show you something." For the next hour, Curtis explained credit scores, mortgage rates, and property foreclosures. His eyes lit up when talking about market analysis and investment strategies. "You're smart," he said finally. "And you're hungry. That's a dangerous combination." I looked at my savings app, 24,182 $. Not hungry enough yet. "Then let's fix that." He grabbed a napkin, wrote down some numbers. "These are the steps. Follow them exactly. In 2 years, you could be looking at your first property." I folded the napkin carefully, tucked it into my pocket. "Why help me?" "Because 12 years ago, I was sleeping in my car too." He stood up, straightened his name tag. "Time for med checks in aisle 3. The next morning, I sat at Ingrid's tiny kitchen table while Hannah ate Cheerios. My phone buzzed. Another Facebook notification. My mother had posted photos from my sister's baby shower. The caption read, "So blessed to welcome our first grandchild soon." Hannah knocked over her sippy cup, giggling as milk spread across the table. I grabbed a paper towel, and that napkin from Curtis fell out of my pocket. First step, build credit score to 700 plus. Second step, save 20% down minimum. Third step, study market trends in target area. Fourth step, get licensed. Fifth step, wait for the right property. I picked up my phone and downloaded a credit monitoring app. Then I called the community college to enroll in their online business program. Finally, I opened my banking app and created a new savings account. The name I gave it? Revenge Fund. Mama, more milk? Hannah held up her empty cup, milk still dripping down her chin. I wiped her face, kissed her forehead. You know what, baby? Mama's going to get you a whole house full of milk someday. That night at work, I got my first overtime shift of many to come. As I stocked shelves at 4 a.m., I could see my parents' house on the hill through the pharmacy windows. Their porch lights were on, probably for another late-night social gathering. My phone vibrated. A text from my sister. Mom's showing everyone ultrasound photos. She says this time she'll do grandmothering right. Whatever that means. I turned off my phone and grabbed the next box of inventory. Let them drink their wine. Let them play their social games. Let them think they'd written me out of their story. Because I was writing my own now, and their chapter was coming. They just didn't know it yet. I looked at my first real paycheck again, the one with proper overtime. More money than I'd ever seen at once. Tears welled up, but this time they felt different. I smiled, tucked the check away, and got back to work. After all, revenge funds don't build themselves. 2 years can change everything. My credit score climbed from the depths of despair to a respectable 742. Hannah started kindergarten, and Curtis became more than just a mentor. He became the father figure I'd never really had. "You're ready," Curtis said one evening, reviewing my practice real estate exam results. We sat in his home office, surrounded by property listings and market analysis reports. "You could take the test tomorrow and pass with your eyes closed." "I need to be more than ready," I replied, highlighting another section in my textbook. "I need to be perfect." He leaned back in his chair, studying me with that knowing look he'd developed over our weekly study sessions. "This isn't just about getting licensed anymore, is it?" It never was. Hannah played with blocks in the corner, building towers and knocking them down. Curtis's wife had set up a special corner just for her, complete with toys and a tiny desk. "You know," Curtis said, "revenge is a tricky business. I've seen it eat people alive. Good thing I'm not people." I closed my textbook. "I'm a future real estate mogul." He laughed, but his eyes stayed serious. "Just remember, the best revenge isn't just about hurting others. It's about building yourself up so high they can't reach you anymore." My phone buzzed. Another real estate alert. I'd set them up for every property within 5 miles of my parents' house. Most were way out of my league, but I studied them all, learning the patterns, watching the market breathe. "Holy shit," I whispered, staring at the newest listing. "Language," Curtis warned, glancing at Hannah. But I barely heard him. There on my screen was an address I knew by heart, my childhood home. Status: pre-foreclosure. "Look at this." I handed him my phone. "Tell me I'm not dreaming." Curtis whistled low. "Your parents' place?" He scrolled through the details. "Looks like they've missed quite a few payments. Property taxes, too." My hands shook as I took the phone back. All those wine parties, all that keeping up appearances, it had finally caught up with them. "What's the timeline look like?" "Based on these numbers," Curtis pulled up his calculator. "They've got maybe 3 months before it goes to auction, unless they can come up with about $218,000. I opened my banking app. Between my savings, investments, and the small inheritance from my grandmother that my mother couldn't touch, I had just over $225,000. "Hannah, sweetie," I called. "Pack up your blocks. We need to go see Aunt Ingrid." At Ingrid's apartment, now a 2-bedroom thanks to her promotion, I laid out my plan. She listened while making dinner, occasionally shaking her head in disbelief. "You're actually going to do it," she said finally. "You're going to buy their house." "Not just buy it." I helped Hannah with her spaghetti. "I'm going to make them leave it. That's some cold-served revenge right there." Ingrid poured more wine. "But what about Hannah? Have you thought about how this might affect her?" I watched my daughter carefully twirl pasta with her fork, a skill she'd recently mastered. Everything I do is for her, to show her that no one, not even family, gets to decide her worth. Later that night, after Hannah was asleep, I sat at my laptop reviewing foreclosure procedures. A new email popped up from my sister. Mom and Dad are having some financial troubles. They're too proud to ask, but I thought you might want to help. You know, show them you've grown up. Here's their lawyer's number. I marked the email as read and closed my laptop. Through the window, I could see the city lights sparkling. Somewhere out there, my parents were probably hosting another party, pretending everything was fine. The next morning, I aced my real estate exam. Curtis took me and Hannah out for ice cream to celebrate. I got you something, he said, sliding an envelope across the table. Inside was a business card. Simple, elegant, with my name and real estate professional underneath. Your first box arrives next week, he said. Time to start building your empire. Hannah reached for the card with sticky fingers. Pretty, Mama. I tucked it safely away, watching my daughter's ice cream-stained smile. In 3 months, I would be standing in an auction room, ready to buy back the house that had rejected us. But this time, I'd be the one with the power to say who belonged and who didn't. My phone lit up with another alert. The foreclosure notice was now public record. I could picture my mother's face when she saw it in the local paper, her carefully maintained image starting to crack. You okay? Curtis asked, noting my expression. Just thinking about karma, I said, helping Hannah wipe her face, and how sometimes it needs a little push in the right direction. I pulled out the business card again, ran my finger over the embossed letters of my name. 2 years ago, I'd been sleeping in my car. Now I was about to become a homeowner of the very house that had shut its doors on us. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just served cold. Sometimes it's served with a real estate license and a foreclosure notice. The auction house smelled like coffee and desperation. I sat in the back row, wearing a blazer borrowed from Ingrid and heels I'd splurged on just for this moment. My heart thundered so loud I could barely hear the auctioneer's rapid-fire speech. Next property, 1487 Maple Grove Drive. Opening bid at $180,000. Curtis sat 2 rows ahead, pretending not to know me. We'd planned this carefully. He'd bid first, drive up the price just enough to flush out serious buyers. I'd swoop in for the kill. A man in an expensive suit raised his paddle. $185,000? $190,000, called Curtis. My parents weren't here. Of course not. They'd sent their lawyer, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses who kept checking his phone. He raised his paddle. $195,000. I watched the numbers climb. $200,000. $205,000. Each bid made my fingers tighten around the cashier's checks in my purse. Everything I owned was in those pieces of paper. $210,000, said the suit. Curtis looked back, so slightly nobody else would notice. Our signal. He was out. $215,000, the lawyer countered, looking bored. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. Every head turned. $218,000. The lawyer's eyes narrowed, studying me. I kept my face neutral, thanking God I'd worn sunglasses and styled my hair differently than usual. $218,000 going once. The suit shook his head. Twice. The lawyer reached for his phone. Sold. To the lady in the back. My legs shook as I walked to the front. The lawyer brushed past me, already dialing. I wondered if he was calling my mother right now, telling her some stranger had just bought her precious house. Congratulations, the clerk said, sliding paperwork across the desk. Will you be using a mortgage company? Cash purchase? I placed the cashier's checks down one by one. My hands didn't shake anymore. Outside, Curtis waited by his truck. You did it, kid. I did it. The reality hadn't hit yet. I actually did it. Keys will be ready tomorrow. He squeezed my shoulder. You sure about the next part? I nodded. They have 30 days to vacate. Legal requirement. That's not what I meant. I know. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my sister. But they made their choice 2 years ago. Now I'm making mine. At home, Hannah was napping at Ingrid's place. I sat on the couch, staring at the property deed in my hands. My name, my house, my revenge. My phone buzzed again. A text from Ingrid. Your parents just posted on Facebook. Having Sunday brunch at Maples. Want to see? I clicked the link. There they were. My mother in her designer dress. My father with his forced smile. Kylie showing off her baby bump. The caption read, Family is everything. Blessed Sacre Sunday brunch. Perfect, I texted back. I know exactly where to deliver their eviction notice. The next morning, I put on my new power suit and drove to Maples. Through the window, I could see them at their usual table, my mother sipping her mimosa, my father hiding behind his newspaper. The hostess smiled. Table for one? No, thank you. I held up an envelope. I just need to deliver this. I walked straight to their table, my heels clicking against the hardwood floor. My mother saw me first. Her mimosa froze halfway to her lips. Skylar? My father lowered his newspaper. What are you? Special delivery. I placed the envelope in the center of their table, right next to the fresh flowers. You'll want to read this immediately. Kylie reached for it, but I pulled back. Actually, this is for the homeowners only. What's the meaning of this? My mother's voice had that familiar edge of disdain. We're having a family brunch. Oh, I know. I smiled, channeling every ounce of her own cold politeness. That's why I came now. You always said timing was everything. If you need money, my father started. I don't need anything from you. Not anymore. I turned to leave, then paused. By the way, you have 30 days. I'd start packing. 30 days for what? Kylie called after me. I didn't answer. Let them open the envelope. Let them see the official eviction notice. Let them wonder who bought their house and why. Outside, I took a deep breath of fresh air. My phone buzzed. A picture from Ingrid. She'd been watching Hannah while I did this, and they'd made pancakes together. My daughter's face was covered in syrup, her smile bright enough to light up the world. How'd it go? Ingrid texted. I looked back through the restaurant window. My mother was ripping open the envelope, her hands shaking. My father had gone pale. Kylie was already on her phone, probably Googling what was happening. They don't know it's me yet, I replied. But they will, soon. I got in my car and drove away from the restaurant, away from their shocked faces and broken illusions. In my rearview mirror, I could see my mother standing on the sidewalk, the eviction notice clutched in her manicured hands. Sometimes karma needs a little help, and sometimes karma wears designer heels. The calls started within hours. First my sister, then my father, finally their lawyer. I let them all go to voicemail. Each message grew more desperate than the last. This must be a mistake, my father pleaded. We can work something out. Whatever game you're playing, Kylie warned, it needs to stop. The lawyer was more direct. My clients are willing to negotiate with the new owner. I saved every message, playing them at night after Hannah went to bed. Their panic was like music, the sweetest revenge soundtrack I could have imagined. On day 7, my mother finally called. I know you're behind this somehow, she hissed. Your sister saw you at the restaurant. Did she? I examined my nails, freshly manicured, just like she always insisted proper ladies should have. How observant of her. Stop being childish. This is our home. Was your home, I corrected. Now it belongs to someone else. Who? Her voice cracked. Who bought it? You'll find out. Soon. I hung up and blocked her number. Through my apartment window, I could see the city skyline glittering. Somewhere out there, my mother was probably pacing her imported marble floors, wondering how her perfect world had crumbled so fast. The next morning, I drove Hannah to school, then headed to Curtis's office. He'd agreed to handle the property management side of things, keeping my name off the paperwork for now. They've hired a private investigator, he said, sliding a coffee across his desk to me. Guy came by yesterday, asking questions about the auction. Let them waste their money. I took a sip. Everything was legal. Legal doesn't mean easy. He leaned forward. You sure you want to go through with the next part? I pulled out my phone, showing him my mother's latest Facebook post. Praying for guidance through this difficult time. Some people have no heart. Shark family, shark faith, shakrish strength. More sure than ever. That afternoon, I drove to my parents' house, my house now, and parked across the street. Their Mercedes was in the driveway, along with several other expensive cars. Crisis management meeting, no doubt. I straightened my designer blazer, real this time, bought with my first commission check, and grabbed my briefcase. Time for the grand reveal. The doorbell chimed inside. Footsteps approached. Multiple sets. The door opened to reveal my mother, father, sister, and what appeared to be their entire legal team. Hello, Mother. I smiled her smile right back at her. May I come in? Skylar? My father's face went ash white. What are you doing here? I'm here to inspect my property. I held up a business card, my name gleaming in gold letters, and to formally introduce myself as your new landlord. The silence was delicious. My mother's perfect makeup couldn't hide her shock. Kylie grabbed the doorframe for support. That's impossible, one of the lawyers said. The buyer was standing right in front of you. I stepped past them into the foyer. Nice flowers. Peonies were always your favorite, weren't they, Mother? You can't afford this house, my mother finally managed. You're a what? A disappointment? A failure? I ran my finger along the entry table, checking for dust. Or maybe I'm just better at managing money than you were. My father found his voice. Why? Why? I turned to face them all. 2 years ago, I stood on this porch with your granddaughter, begging for shelter. You had 5 empty bedrooms and 0 compassion. We were protecting our reputation, my mother snapped, and now I'm protecting mine. I opened my briefcase, removing a stack of papers. These are the new terms of your occupancy. You have 23 days left to vacate. Or what? Kylie challenged. Or I'll have you forcibly removed, just like you wanted to do to me. The lawyers huddled, whispering urgently. My mother's face had gone from shocked to calculating. How much? She asked. To make this go away, I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. You still don't get it, do you? This isn't about money. This is about karma. We're your parents, my father tried. No. I placed the papers on their precious entry table. You're just my tenants, and you're being evicted. I walked to the door, then turned back one last time. Oh, and Mother? Those family photos you cropped me out of? I found the originals in your closet. They'll make excellent evidence of prior residency if you try to fight this in court. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of victory. My phone buzzed, Ingrid sending me a picture of Hannah doing her homework at their kitchen table. How'd it go? She texted. I looked back at the house. Through the window, I could see my mother crumpled in her favorite armchair, my father pacing, Kylie furiously typing on her phone. The lawyers were packing up their briefcases, shaking their heads. Better than therapy, I replied. That night, I tucked Hannah into bed with an extra tight hug. Mama, she whispered sleepily, are we going to live in a big house soon? No, baby. I kissed her forehead. We're going to help someone else live there instead. Someone who deserves it. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't taking something away. It's giving it to someone better. The local news picked up the story faster than I expected. Prominent family faces foreclosure scandal splashed across my morning news feed, complete with a photo of my mother trying to shield her face from reporters. But that wasn't the real bombshell. "You need to see this," Curtis said, dropping a thick folder on my desk. My contact at the bank found something interesting. I opened the folder and felt my stomach drop. Credit card statements, loan applications, identity theft reports, all with my name on them. Dates ranging back to when I was 18. They used my identity? My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. All this time started right after you turned 18. Curtis pointed to the earliest application. They opened credit cards, took out personal loans, used your social security number for everything. The numbers made me dizzy. Over $100,000 in fraudulent debt, all traced back to my parents' spending habits. My phone rang. Ingrid. "Turn on Channel 7 right now." I grabbed the remote in my office and clicked it on. There was my mother, standing outside her country club, speaking to reporters. "These allegations are ridiculous," she was saying. "Our daughter is simply confused about financial matters. We've always supported her, even through her unfortunate choices." The camera panned to my father, who looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. "No comment," he muttered, hurrying to their car. Confused about financial matters? I turned to Curtis. Let's see how confused their lawyer thinks I am. I called the police first, then my own lawyer. Within hours, I was sitting in a detective's office, laying out years of financial abuse. "This is clear-cut identity theft," the detective said, reviewing the documents. "Multiple counts. We'll need to take statements." By evening, the story had evolved. Local socialites accused of fraud replaced the foreclosure headlines. My phone exploded with messages from old friends, distant relatives, even my high school teachers. Then came the text from my sister. "Mom's having chest pains. Are you happy now?" I was drafting a response when my office door burst open. My mother stood there, mascara streaked down her face, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. "You wouldn't ruin your own family, would you?" Her voice cracked. "After everything we've done for you? Everything you've done for me?" I stood up slowly. Like stealing my identity? Destroying my credit before I could even start my life? We needed to maintain our lifestyle. She threw a stack of papers on my desk. "Here, documentation proving we always intended to pay it back." I picked up the papers. Loan applications, all in my name, with payment schedules that stretched into my 50s. "You plan to keep me in debt for 30 years? We gave you life," she hissed. "You owed us that much." I owed you nothing. I pressed the intercom button on my desk. "Security, please escort Mrs. Ortiz out. And call the detective handling my case. Tell him she just tried to deliver fraudulent evidence." "You're really doing this?" She straightened her spine, trying to regain her usual poise. "Sending your own mother to jail?" "No, Mother. You sent yourself there. I'm just making sure you arrive on time." Security arrived to lead her out. As she reached the door, she turned back one last time. "Your father will never recover from this," she said. "His heart condition." "Stop." I held up my hand. "You don't get to use guilt anymore. It doesn't work on me now." After she left, I called Curtis. "They tried to cover it up." "Of course they did." He sighed. "What's your next move?" I looked at the papers my mother had brought. Her desperate attempt to hide years of theft and lies. "I'm pressing charges," I said. "All of them. And I'm going public with the whole story." That night, I sat Hannah down at our kitchen table. At 6, she was old enough to notice something was happening, but too young to understand the full scope. "Baby, you know how Grandma and Grandpa weren't very nice to us?" She nodded, munching on her dinner. "That's why we couldn't stay at their house." "Right. Well, they also did some bad things. They might have to go away for a while." "To jail?" Her eyes widened. "Like in movies?" "Something like that." I squeezed her hand. "But we're going to be okay. Better than okay." My phone buzzed. A news alert. My mother and father had been arrested, released on bail within hours. Their mugshots showed two people I barely recognized. Stripped of their designer clothes and social status, they looked small, ordinary, human. Kylie sent one final text. "You've destroyed everything. I hope you're satisfied." I looked at my daughter, happily drawing with crayons after dinner, then at the stack of evidence that would ensure my parents faced justice. "You already destroyed everything," I whispered to my phone. "I'm just making sure everyone knows why." Because sometimes the truth is the best revenge of all. The house stood empty, a hollow shell of its former grandeur. My footsteps echoed through vacant rooms as I conducted the final walkthrough. My parents had moved out yesterday, leaving behind only dust and memories. "You sure you want to do this alone?" Curtis asked over the phone. "I need to." I climbed the stairs, running my hand along the banister. Some ghosts you have to face by yourself. In my old bedroom, faded rectangles on the walls marked where posters once hung. The closet still smelled like my teenage perfume. I found an old diary hidden behind a loose baseboard, filled with dreams of escape and freedom I'd long since achieved. The master bedroom was last. I'd never been allowed in here as a child. It was my mother's sanctuary, always locked, always private. Now I held the key. The walk-in closet was bigger than my first apartment. Empty hangers clinked together like wind chimes as I pushed them aside. In the back corner, behind a false panel I'd never known existed, I found a box. Inside were photos, hundreds of them. Me as a baby, toddler, teenager. All the original versions of pictures she'd later cropped or hidden. In some, she was actually smiling at me, looking at me with what seemed like real love. "Mama?" Hannah's voice startled me. I turned to find her and Ingrid in the doorway. "Sorry," Ingrid said. She wanted to see the house before... "Before what?" Hannah asked, looking around the empty room. I wiped my eyes quickly. "Before we give it to someone special." That afternoon, I met Trinity Johnson in my office. A single mother of two, recently divorced, struggling to find affordable housing. Her application had stood out among dozens. "I don't understand," she said, staring at the lease terms. "This can't be right. The rent is 48% below market value," I confirmed, "with an option to buy after 2 years. But why?" I showed her pictures of the house. "Because 2 years ago, I was where you are now. Someone could have helped me, but chose not to. I'm choosing differently." Trinity started crying. Her youngest daughter, about Hannah's age, hugged her leg. "There's just one condition," I added. "The house needs to be filled with love. Real love. Not the kind that comes with conditions." "We can do that," Trinity whispered. "We can definitely do that." Later, I stood on the front porch, watching Trinity and her daughters explore their new home. Their laughter echoed through the rooms where silence had ruled for so long. My phone buzzed. A news alert. My parents' plea deal had been finalized. No jail time, but significant fines and community service. Their social standing was destroyed, their country club membership revoked. For them, that was probably worse than prison. "Miss Schuyler?" Trinity called from inside. "Could you come here a minute?" I found them in the kitchen. The girls had discovered the height marks on the wall where my father used to measure me and Kylie. "Should we paint over these?" Trinity asked. I touched the highest mark, dated just before I'd gotten pregnant with Hannah. "No, keep them. Add your own. This house should have a history of children growing up loved." "Even after everything they did to you?" I pulled out the box of photos I'd found. They weren't always monsters. Sometimes they were just people who forgot how to love properly. I handed her the box. "Maybe put these somewhere safe. Someday, Hannah might want to know where she came from." Trinity hugged me suddenly. "Thank you. Not just for the house, but for showing my girls what strength looks like." That evening, I sat on the porch steps one last time. The setting sun painted the windows gold, just like when I was little. Hannah played with Trinity's daughters in the yard, their shadows long in the fading light. My phone buzzed. A text from Kylie. Mom and Dad are staying with me. They've lost everything. I hope you're satisfied. I watched Hannah chase fireflies with her new friends, her laughter carrying across the lawn. Trinity was in the kitchen window, cooking dinner, dancing to music I couldn't hear. They didn't lose everything, I texted back. They lost what they valued most, their image, but they never valued what really mattered. I blocked her number before she could respond. Some conversations weren't worth having anymore. Mama, Hannah called. Come catch fireflies with us. I joined the girls in the yard, showing them how to cup their hands gently around the glowing insects before letting them go. Trinity brought out lemonade and cookies. We all sat on the porch, watching darkness fall and lights come on in windows that would never again hide secrets or shame. Are you sad? Hannah asked quietly. No, baby. I kissed her head. I'm free. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what hurt you. Sometimes it's about creating something beautiful from the ruins. I left my childhood home for the last time that night, but I didn't look back. The laughter behind me was all the future I needed to hear. The morning sun streams through my office window as I review applications for the newest property in my portfolio. Each folder tells a story of struggle, hope, and determination. Single parents, domestic violence survivors, families one paycheck away from homelessness. Your 9 o'clock is here, my assistant calls through the intercom. I look up to see a familiar face in my doorway. My mother. She's thinner now, her designer clothes replaced by department store brands. The community service vest she's required to wear clashes with her carefully applied makeup. 5 minutes, she says, holding up her hands. That's all I'm asking for. I gesture to the chair across from my desk. She sits, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. I saw the article about your housing initiative, she begins. Helping single mothers, providing below-market rentals. It's admirable. Thank you. I keep my voice neutral. Was that all? Your father had another heart episode last week. She pulls out her phone, shows me hospital photos. He keeps asking about Hannah. Hannah is doing fine. I turn a framed photo on my desk, my daughter's latest school picture. She made honor roll this semester. My mother's eyes linger on the photo. She looks just like you did at that age. She's nothing like me at that age, I correct her. She knows she's loved, unconditionally. The silence stretches between us, heavy with unspoken words. Finally, she reaches into her purse and pulls out an envelope. What's this? I ask. Proof that I've completed anger management, family therapy, financial counseling. Her voice cracks. I'm trying, Skylar. I know it doesn't erase anything, but I'm trying. Before I can respond, my office door bursts open. Hannah runs in, followed by an apologetic Ingrid. Sorry, Ingrid says. She couldn't wait to show you her test score. Hannah stops short when she sees my mother. They've never officially met, though Hannah's seen her picture in those old photos. Is this... Hannah looks at me uncertainly. My mother stands slowly, pressing her hands together to stop their shaking. Hello, Hannah. I'm Victoria. Hannah glances at me again. I nod slightly, letting her make her own choice. I got an A on my math test, Hannah announces, holding up her paper. Want to see? The next few minutes are awkward but civil. My mother praises Hannah's work, answers her curious questions about the photos in my office. I watch them interact, feeling something shift inside me. Not forgiveness exactly, but perhaps understanding. We should go, my mother says finally. Thank you for the time. At the door, she turns back. That house, the one you took from us. I drive by sometimes. The family there, they seem happy. They are. I think of Trinity's last update, her oldest starting college, her youngest learning piano in the room that used to be my prison. They're making it what it always should have been. A home, she whispers. After she leaves, Ingrid raises an eyebrow. You okay? Actually, yes. I pull up the applications on my computer. Help me pick the next family? We spend the afternoon reviewing stories, making calls, changing lives. Curtis stops by with renovation plans for our latest project, converting an old apartment building into affordable housing units. Your empire grows, he jokes. Not an empire, I correct him. A revolution. That evening, Hannah and I have dinner on our duplex porch. She's unusually quiet, pushing food around her plate. What's on your mind, baby? That lady today, Victoria? She's really my grandmother? I nod. Will she hurt us like before? No. I set down my fork. She can't hurt us anymore. We're too strong now. Can she be nice instead? I think about the envelope of certificates, the trembling hands, the department store clothes. Maybe. But that's her work to do, not ours. Hannah considers this, then brightens. Like how Trinity's family made the old house nice again. Exactly like that. Later, after Hannah's asleep, I sit with my laptop, updating my website. The tagline reads, Second Chances Housing Initiative, because everyone deserves a home. My phone buzzes, a text from Trinity. Girls made honor roll too. House is full of celebration tonight. I smile, remembering all those nights in my car, dreaming of revenge. I got it, but not in the way I'd expected. Instead of destroying my past, I'd built something better, a future where other families wouldn't face what I did. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I made sure mine was furnished, child-safe, and 48% below market value. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't about getting even. It's about making sure no one else has to.